What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
Yo, welcome back. Best Ball Mania. We are in these streets in June. We are live drafting a team again. We got our guy Mark Garcia, high-low, back this week from vacation. And joining us tonight, Jakob Sanderson from Dynasty Points fame, from Thinking About Thinking fame, and one of my favorite fantasy analysts in the space. Jakob, thanks for joining us, man. How many BBMs have you done so far?
I'm at, this will be number 25. This will be number 25.
Okay. Lucky number 25 tonight. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. We'll go ahead and start firing. Mark, how was the vacation, man? You were just telling us you went to Legoland. You're in San Diego.
Yeah, dude. We did a lot. It was like half work trip, half family vacay. So it was kind of
Nice,
cool.
dude.
It was packed a lot into 2 weeks, but good to be home. Get back into the grind, man.
It's always nice to like get a break, you
Yeah.
know, and then after like 5, 6, 7 days, you're like, all right, I'll miss sleeping in my own bed. I'm ready to get some actually decent sleep here. Our guy, Thomas Tipple, as always, joining us, hanging out tonight. Thomas, living large, man. How you doing?
I'm ready to take on my AJ Hawk-esque role for this year program and listen to three super smart best ball players draft a phenomenal team while I just crack jokes the whole time. I mean, it's one of my favorite things to do is just talk ball. And
I think you're a little more controversial than AJ Hawk, but
okay. I mean, give me a cigar and let's go.
Oh, we didn't get the one, man. The streak is broken.
Oh, we got the 3. Yeah.
Damn, it's Jakob.
Yeah, we this is our 4th show of the year.
Oh,
and
no.
I'll take the 3.
Oh
That's great.
no, gentlemen,
that?
we're about to get sniped. Omega King is in the chat. That's Omega.
Okay. Well, that's fine. We'll just have to use the private chat a little bit and we can talk in generalities. Cool. I'm just pumped we didn't get like the 9 through 11. Actually, well, 9 through 12 really to me is like the worst spots, and I've just been getting. I don't have the math offhand, but it feels as though I've had like half my drafts picking in those back 4 picks. So anything in the top 8 is thrilling to me.
yeah, you'll have some good variants run your way, but man, I'm with you. The back end of the first round it's tricky. It's really, really tricky this year.
Yeah, it's tough. Like once we get past the top 8 is really when my rankings just start diverging massively from the fields, and then it's like I don't really want to, I don't want to be picking my guys. I don't want to be picking the guys who are actually at ADP. Okay, I'm fine with any of the top 3 players here. Like I kind of just rotate them around. Yeah. I'll probably I like Jefferson enough that I'm going to be overweight him because I mix him in ahead of the other guys sometimes, but I'm not pressed about it. Like I'm fine with Hill or Chase, whoever you guys want.
All right, we'll ride with Tyreek here, but I'm with you. I think it's close enough between those 3. Amon-Ra, I think I've seen Amon-Ra over Jefferson. I'm not there yet.
I don't do that. I view it very much like so. I actually just don't take McCaffrey, and I'm just fine with that being like a thing that I'll lose on if he stays healthy all year. I just prefer the structure of the elite wide receiver with the economy this year. And I'm just kind of fine accepting the possibility that just is like a massive L. But in terms of the wide receivers, like in a vacuum, Jefferson's probably just my favorite. So I kind of mix him in all of the spots on occasion just to make sure I get up to like 15, 16%, mostly coming at the expense of McCaffrey. And then I just kind of take the other 3 guys roughly even with the field. I don't ever take Amon-Ra except for exactly at 6.
Yeah, I've got him ahead of Bijan, ahead of Brees. So I'm with you there. I got to ask you about CMC though. So you're basically taking 0 CMC. Is that about right? Or like you're just mixing him in ahead of those receivers when you have too much? Or
I won't take any of him. It's not his fault. I mean, he's like totally worthy of being the 101.
It's not your fault, Chris.
It's not your fault.
It's not like I don't think he should be the 101. So part of this is just like I would always rather try to get fewer things right. So like to me, like I just want to kind of, if I think something's defensible, I would like to have like 20 to 25% of one of the players in the first round, just so that then if I'm right on that, I have a bigger payoff. So Jefferson is kind of that leverage point for me where I want to get over aggressive on somebody, he's the one that kind of fits what I want to do there most, in large part just because I think he is being kind of undervalued. I think he's clearly the best skill position player in the world. And then he also gets an indoor matchup in a really favorable game environment versus Green Bay in week 17, which I find pretty appealing. The McCaffrey thing is more just like the draft economy this year is just such that I would really prefer to be starting 0 RB in frankly 100% of my drafts. Yeah. It's harder for me to do when the choice is like Brees or Bijan, who I see as pretty much in the same grouping with CMC, and it's them versus Garrett, AJ. It's a little easier for me to bypass CMC when the options are Lamb, Hill, Jefferson, Chase. That doesn't feel as bad to me. Even though, I fully understand that 0% CMC is terrifying and could easily end my season.
Yeah, it is a little terrifying. I've got him at 1. I've been taking him at 1, but I think your position is defensible. We were talking about this last week with Ryan Heath. Even if McCaffrey, let's say McCaffrey regresses from 22, 23 points per game to 19, he's still probably the RB1, but the margin between him and Brees and Bijan and JT even is just a lot slimmer.
It collapses, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'm just playing the fragility angle. It's not as though I think he's going to get hurt, but I do think his odds of getting hurt are just higher. And I
Omega.
think that. So
what's Omega got here?
Yeah, I mean, there's one guy that I take here that I take all the time that I'm really hoping we can get, and if we don't get him, then I don't really care.
I think I know who you're talking about.
I think I still have the Omega drop.
Is it Waddle? Yeah.
Omega. Yeah, I have 40.
I still have his drop from last year.
Omega.
Again.
The sniper comes through.
Probably. Is Neighbors off the board here already too? What are we? Oh, okay.
No,
I'm probably Achan or
I'm
Neighbors.
team Achan for sure.
Achan or who, Jacob? Because I'm with you on
Achan
here. Okay, we can probably get Neighbors on the comeback. You're gonna have to sell me over Neighbors over all these dudes here. I have him behind Pittman, which kind of doesn't feel great, to be honest with you. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think Neighbors is a really phenomenal prospect. I think everybody thinks that. I think that they're going to build this entire offense around him. I trust Dable schematically. They don't have anybody else there. I think they're going to be able to move him all around the field. I think he's one of the easier receivers to project a pretty insane target share for. I suspect if I get around to doing projections this year, I don't know if I'll have time to do it in depth with law stuff, but I suspect I'll probably be able to have him in the 27, 28 range pretty easily based on what I think of him as a player and based on the situation. And then you also look at everything that he can do from a after the catch perspective from his college profile is quite enticing to me. It's just some of those guys there, Waddle is really, really interesting to me for sure. That's the guy that I've been prioritizing. I have him ranked, I think 15th overall or something insane. So for me, it's I have Neighbors a full tier ahead everybody else that's available right now, but I think Diggs would be the one I like the next most, I guess.
Yeah. High-low, break the tie. Neighbors or Diggs here?
Neighbors.
All right. We've been working through projections with Chris, with John for the last couple of weeks, and I honestly had to force up Neighbors into the 30s after doing projections.
So what do you have him projected at from a target share perspective right now?
Let me go through Chris's. Probably.
What do you have their pass rate at?
Yeah. I got receivers pulled up right now, actually. Let's see, Neighbors.
Jacob, I had a question for you regarding CMC while we're waiting.
Yeah, 25%.
Is that something is that hard fade of CMC going to change as we get later into draft season when all the shakeup in running back ADP is less fluid and is more stable?
Well, if the economy changes in that the group of round 7 and round 8 running backs becomes round 6 running backs, then maybe. But if it's just become stable in terms of the ordering, but the overall economy is the same, probably not. I think the big thing with me is I just don't fear having 0 of players. I'm gonna have 0 of a majority of the players in the first 6 rounds.
Bro, I'm with you, but not McCaffrey. I can stomach 0 Kyron Williams.
Yeah, and all that's fair. It's not as though I like when I zero a player, it's not because I think like that's a bad pick. Like, so like when I say I'm going to have zero McCaffrey, it's not like I think he's a bad pick. Like I think obviously he's a great pick. He's Christian McCaffrey. It's just, I prefer to play as tight as I can, because the reality is like when we talk about exposures, I think people still apply like a DFS perspective to exposures, where it's like, I'm going to do 150 lineups into the DK Millie today. But like here, we're not getting 150 lineups into the Millie. We're getting like, realistically, if we get 2 lineups into the VBM finals, it's like the best, we're running hotter than God. If you get 1, it's a pretty great year. The way how big this tournament is and how hard it is to advance teams. So I don't really worry that much about capping exposures, because to me, it's more about like, if I'm right on the core group of guys I'm prioritizing, then how am I going to get those guys there? And I want to have kind of a mix of players around them, but I want to have as many bullets as I can with the guys that I feel most convicted about and the builds that I feel most convicted about, because you're like crawling through broken glass to even get one team to the finals. So to me, it's just, I think it's like kind of false comfort to be like, well, I don't really like this one guy, but I have 4% of him, because the odds that you actually get, like your odds of getting a team to the finals is like roughly 1 in 10 in a vacuum. So your odds of then getting a guy you have 4% of beyond that then becomes like 1 in 250. So it's like, it's just kind of like not really worth it to me to like mix guys in, so to speak. Now maybe that doesn't really apply to like the McCaffrey example necessarily, since he's obviously such a good pick, but it just kind of applies generally. Like from a philosophical standpoint, I think it's very aggressive to be like, I'll have 0% of a guy, but for me, like I'll have 0% of half the field.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you, and I think what we want is Cooper snap there.
Yeah, I'm not upset about that, because I really like the players in the queue right now. So
we're going to take him here. We're going to take Christian Kirk here. I'm with you, because like in general, Jacob, like looking back at the last 3 years of Underdog, I was looking at this for an article I'm doing right now. Like generally speaking, there's 4 to 6 individual players that have advance rates 2.5 times or 2.25 times higher than just like your neutral rate, which is 16.7%. I mean, you just want that. Obviously, it's way easier said than done, but you want to maximize when you're right. And if you're double the field on a certain player like CJ Stroud or Brock Purdy last year, speaking of one of the quarterbacks, or pretty much any of his receivers, like you probably structurally were building extremely well here. All right, this is where it gets kind of tricky here.
There's
Receiver
2 players
dies.
I was hoping for, and they're both here. So I'm fine with either option. Andrews is a big priority point for me from a portfolio level. So I'm very excited about him. And then we already have Neighbors, so we have the opportunity to set up the correlation with Richardson. I'd be very excited about that as well.
I'm on Andrews here. Hilo, you want to break the tie? I think I know.
Yeah, I'm going Andrews. Yeah.
I'm totally good with Andrews.
Yeah, we'll go to get some Lawrence maybe. But Mark, what's your thoughts on Jacob's kind of overall point about the market right now? Because this is a big part of the reason I'm a lot lower on Kyron, a little lower on Derrick Henry, pretty much market on ETN, a little above market, actually a lot above market on Pacheco. But I'm kind of with him. Like, I don't know if I can have 0 McCaffrey, but at the same time, like I'm completely fine taking some big stands on these running backs like Josh Jacobs. I'm 10 spots below ADP. I just feel really good about pretty much all of the backs that go in like the 6th, 7th, 8th round. Like I know you and I are standing for Jonathan Brooks.
Historically,
I have some like aggressively low ranks on some of the running backs that you mentioned. I'm glad we're in lockstep on some of those. Like I have Jacobs at 55. I have Kyron at 49. So like these are guys that just like are invisible to me.
Holy shit! I got Kyron at 36, and I thought that was low. Or 30.
I think I'm in the mid 30s as well.
But
like from historically speaking, like we know the data that we have. Historically speaking, round 8 to 12 running backs are going to be the biggest ADP movers, just from a generalized like area of the draft. So if we know that like going in, and we start like these contests open. And we have to like be drafting when these contests open, knowing or assuming that that's going to be the case in 3 months, right? So if we do that, drafting like mega 0 running back rosters now would effectively be like getting 2 or 3 additional 5th to 7th round picks in 3 months, right? So if we know that like philosophically, it makes 100 times more sense to increase your portfolio of 0 running back builds early, knowing that the ADP movement is likeliest to come from that range. And then you can, that's why I asked Jacob, does that change once the ADP settle later on in the off season? So because you can make up for that at that point where now ADP is more static, it's not going to change as much, and you have the ability to influence your portfolio and stuff.
Yeah, like probably not as much from a philosophical standpoint. Like for me, it's just, and it depends how the environment changes. Like if that does happen and a lot of these guys get drawn up, then it just kind of changes the player mix. Like the big thing driving it for me is just a function of like when you get into round 7, round 8, like basically once like Deontay Johnson is off the board, I just don't want to click a wide receiver for like 5 rounds.
Yeah.
And I want to click every running back. Like I love the price on both the Steelers backs. I like the price on the Titans backs. I love the Brooks price. I don't even really like DeAndre Swift as like a player, but I actually really like his price this year. I like the Cardinals backs price. Like it's just a ton of backs where I'm like, I would like to get 15%. B-Rob is another guy that I'm a massive fan of in his price. Yeah, I understand that this is like harder to sell to people, but I'm still in on Javonte at his price. There's just a lot of backs that I'm very in on at their price. And like all the wide receivers there, to me, it's a mix of guys that I think are like objectively bad picks and some that I think are like fine picks, but I don't have any fear of missing out on.
Well,
wow, we're in the late 6th.
And
they're going to force me to take running backs I hate, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean,
so
they're
my highest ranked player is unfortunately a running back here. It's Ken Walker, but I'm not going to be like super upset about Joe Mixon either.
Okay. High-low break. I'll go Mixon here. It's too late. 1 second.
That would be mine. Yeah.
I've got it's tight.
Ken Walker.
I've got Mixon ahead of Rashad White and Ken Walker. I just think Mixon just a sneaky bell cow every year. And they paid him. Dame Pierce is obviously out of the way there. Mixon's 28. Not
Singletary's gone. That's what's important. Singletary's on another team, so he can't ruin another fantasy asset.
Dameon Pierce has been pretty atrocious in zone running schemes, and so
I have Mixon and
White,
is
like,
the weird
I
part.
don't like Mixon and White at all, but I actually have them ranked like around where they ended up going in this draft, which is pretty far after ADP. Walker is like a target for me. I'm actually pretty interested in clicking him. Because I
just think Zach Charbonnet stinks, because I'm with you on that.
I'm fine with Charbonnet. Like he's a guy. He like plays running back. I think it's just like I look at Walker's profile. I'm very optimistic with the Seattle offense. I'm a big Geno guy. I really love Ryan Grubb. And Walker is just way more explosive than White and Mixon. So in terms of a guy we're looking at like single week upside profiles and the ability to break 80-yard touchdowns. Like that's a profile I want.
Speaking of that, Christian Watson.
Are we just fucked here at wide receiver? Like, what is this? Do we have to click Christian Watson? Like, do we even have a choice? I don't know.
Watson or Rice to me are like.
Yeah. I don't think Rice solves what we need to solve, right? Like if we're solving, we don't have enough receivers. Taking a guy who isn't playing till week 7 is like probably not solving that.
We're taking Watson here.
That's a little painful. I kind of wish in hindsight that we had just taken Deontay or JSN at the last pick and then just taken one of the running backs that fell, but I didn't realize it was going to be that dire.
Yeah, I did not see Rashad slipping through this whole pocket here either. So
shoot, if we had gone Deontay Rashad, we even could have got the correlation there. I don't think I had my cap on for that.
Well, we gotta. I mean, if
Ron Stewart agrees with Christian Watson.
Oh, we got Mixon with Mark Andrews. I didn't.
Yeah, we got Mixon with Mark Andrews. It's not awful. It's not awful.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, definitely not awful.
Shout out Ron Stewart. If you're not locked into his YouTube channel, I think you're out of your mind.
Ronald, the goat.
What's up, Ron?
Watson.
That was like one of my favorite shows I did this offseason was my show with him on Yards Created this year. So shout out to Ron for hanging with us tonight. I really actually like Watson for this team. I have him, this is slightly ahead of where I have him in my rankings, but Watson's been a guy who's just been moving up,
Well,
hopefully these hamstrings are not, held together by paper mache and glue, but
I was talking to known wide receiver needle mover Ryan Heath late last night on the topic of what his archetype is, and someone had mentioned Keenan Allen because he just got hurt and then he blew up, and Ryan Heath, and I'm going to use this quote you didn't think was going to get used. He's like, he's kind of more of a Tyreek Hill, really. So I don't know. Take that for what you will. But apparently, this is the big
He's
blow up
fine
year
for
for
what-
Christian Watson.
My asking goal for him has always been
He's
Jaylen
gonna-
Waddle.
It's
always been Jaylen Waddle, the hyper efficient, God. But
I don't
I have a question
know
for
that
you
I
guys.
actually believe in the Christian Watson breakout year, but I definitely believe in like him being the archetype of player that just like pays off at around
There
7
he is.
price in this economy.
Say his name, and he shows up in the
I
chat.
like the Will Fuller comp. That I actually buy. I buy the Will Fuller comp for sure. Like,
That's been the easiest
on
one.
all levels.
he's better than Fuller. But it's yeah.
I'm sorry.
What were you gonna say,
Ryan.
Hilo? What was your
I'm
question?
sorry.
I was going to say, would you guys ever have considered double tapping running back there and having a 0-3-3-1 start?
I wouldn't.
No, I can't do it. I can't not take a fourth receiver there.
Because that's an interesting, like, theoretical discussion to be had in what's important at what, like, areas of the draft window. Like, right now, like, theoretically speaking, closing line value versus ADP is more or can be as important as things like stacking. It's like,
you're right.
Yeah,
but
it's a weird theoretical
at the same time,
discussion.
dude, we were
I
just
don't-
talking about it. Receiver just is dead. It just dies
there's-
at this point.
There's still
We're
some
gonna find a
guys-
running back here. We'll find a running back. I guarantee.
So
we'll find one.
it's like this is already like one of the most running back heavy teams I've drafted this year.
Same.
Like
Same.
so I haven't even been taking that much Achane, and that hurts me because like I'm more interested in him. But like for the most part, I'm through 4 rounds. I think I'm like 80% 0-0-4-0.
Yeah, I have like almost no Saquon. Probably
0.
yeah.
Smart.
Honestly, probably 0.
Smart.
I'm
Actually, you
zero
know what? I
McCaffrey,
took him in
0
one slow
Saquon.
puppy, and I regretted it. I took him at 22, and I regretted it.
That's a
I have-
slippery slope, though. I will say that's a very
I
slippery
take some
slope.
Hall and Bijan. Like I take them. I think I'm like 4% on each of them. I will take. I don't even like the Gibbs and Taylor price, but I don't really know what else to do there. So I take them like roughly at market. I just feel like I don't have like any optionality of what I can do. It's like because like
They project extremely well in those spots. Like once you get past Brown and Puka, I mean, it's just like they're kind of just there by proxy of projections.
It's like the part of it that's frustrating, and it just speaks how bad that part of the draft is like.
Oh my gosh.
I like take more Gibbs and Taylor. Oh my god. I mean, Love would be my pick.
Yeah. Yeah, these dudes have no quarterbacks. He wants Purdy or Williams. He wants Dak.
I don't know that we can like assign rationality to drafters, but I hope that we can.
Well, Megan got us again.
A little bit of rationality. Yeah, we're gonna take Jordan Love here for Shadow.
There's no one I'm staring at that I feel like I'm sad to pass on for Jordan Love. So
yeah, no, I'm with you on that.
Who do we like on this next pick? Let's talk this one through. I
sort by ADP.
It's gross.
Yeah, this is so like
it's a big
Brooks being gone is painful. That I would have been really excited about. Warren Harris are gone, right? Like this is where my ranks start to really diverge from the market at running back. Like my 3 favorites at this point would be like B-Rob and Spears and Javonte, which are obviously not at the top of the ADP chart. I like Benson a decent amount. I don't know if I like Mostert with Achane. There's another.
Yeah,
B-Rob
if I'm taking
fan.
2 Dolphins backs, I'm going to take not Mostert and Achane together. I'll take Mostert and Wright together. I'll take Achane and Wright together, but not those 2.
Oh, I'd like Pollard here. I mean, we already have Kirk too, so we got correlation.
Ooh, okay.
Pollard.
I don't know if I could ever click Pollard's name over Zach Moss personally.
Yeah.
Oh,
I have Mostert and Moss ahead.
I will not be clicking a single Zach Moss share.
Really?
Oh,
that
no.
is like the most egregious price.
So I did a study.
Well, you just got
there
saved.
you go.
Thank God.
You just got
Oh
saved,
my
bro.
God. I'm fine with Spears. I'm fine with Spears straight up over Pollard too.
I like
have
that.
literally back.
Yeah, I think Spears is significantly better than Pollard. Like
I have no preference.
significantly.
I think I like
can't
both
take
the
him
Tennessee
here
backs.
though.
You want to
The
say
year
fine with
two,
this.
the year 2 breakout.
Oh
with
no,
Spears.
please no, please no, please not
All right.
single.
Jacob, you're leading the stream. So you
said
said Pollard. I'm going Pollard here. You're leading. You're
All right.
leading this. You're steering the ship. So we'll take
Okay.
Pollard. I'm okay with him here. He's.
I love how the sickness he felt the minute Singletary got clicked.
The Zach
It was
Moss.
funny.
I want to have the Zach Moss discussion because this is one
Yeah,
where I'm actually
let's
like very, very decisive. Like I'm going to be 30% Chase Brown, 0% Zach Moss.
Okay.
That's like one of my biggest stands in the tournament. I think Zach Moss is just like not a good football player. He's not been a good football player for most of his time in the NFL. He was good for half the season last year on the Colts. I thought he was horrendous over the second half of the season for the Colts. Like, to me, the idea that we're drafting him as like a legit starting running back based on like a half season of evidence, to me, is one of those things we look back on at the end of the season and we're like, oh wait, like the guy who was a punchline for 3 years, we just like drafted him with the top 100 pick. Like, what were we doing? And it's not like I think Chase Brown is all that good. I don't really think he's all that good. I just think he has some semblance of explosiveness. I still could see Samaje Perine getting cut by Denver and being the Cincinnati lead back by like week 6. I don't think that's out of the cards either.
I think Zach Moss just projects to get the red zone work. Chase Brown's a 5th round rookie. I think he had some nice plays last year, but man, they straight up just replaced Moss with Mixon. They kind of told us, like, I'm with you. I don't think Zach Moss.
I think that's their plan. I just don't think that plan's going to go well.
That's fair.
Like,
in which case then, Jacob? In which case, like
17 perspective? Yeah. Like, when we get to week 15 through 17, which is like kind of that's the lens through which I try to view every pick. It's like, is Zach Moss just still getting 20 carries? Like, maybe, but I don't know. He's Zach Moss.
The rebuttal for me is like Mixon was one of the least efficient backs of the last 3 seasons in Cincinnati. And it didn't matter because they were giving him 70% of the backfield opportunities. And you look at the early release of the Vegas lines for the entire season, which I forget who put that out, where I saw it on Twitter. But I mean, the Bengals are projected to score the 4th most points of any teams this year. So that could be, it is within the range of outcomes that Zach Moss is, ends the season a top 10 back. And I think that at an ADP in the late 90s or where we were looking at him, I think that is viable.
I mean, I get the pitch. I like, if they let him have the role that you think he's going to have, then he will score points. I certainly don't dispute that. I don't know that I want to like bet on Zach Moss getting a sustained role for 17 weeks. Like, I get that they did it with Mixon. First of all, like, I don't like Joe Mixon very much. I do genuinely think he's like a better running back than Zach Moss. I also think there's an element to which it's harder to just like dust an incumbent who's been on the team for years and has like built up a leadership element within the locker room versus Zach Moss, who they just signed off the street for not that much money. Like, I just think if Zach Moss comes in and is total crap, it's a lot easier to just put him on than it is with like a Joe Mixon, who I think had built up more equity. But we'll see on that. Like, I'm not like, I'm fine with Tony Pollard at price. I mean, I've always been a fan of his. I'm like willing to find out for that price. I like Spears just as much, and I take him more because he's cheaper. But I like both the Titans backs.
I think it's crazy that he's cheaper to me personally. Like, Spears is just a younger, more explosive version of what Pollard is, who's just unreal on that. Yeah, I'm big Spears guy here.
So I'm good with either of the quarterbacks, but I'd also be fine to push them around. If there's a wide receiver running back that you guys like.
Wicks, double.
Clicking a lot of Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, of course.
Say that again, Hilo.
I'm clicking a lot of Brandon Cooks. You probably wait till the next pick, but
I'm not.
I got Cooks ahead of Wicks, but I'm just playing Wicks here.
I will not be clicking a Brandon Cooks share this year.
No,
not a single.
He just projects
not a single.
Really?
No, I think I have him at like 170 or something. Like,
wow. Are you really high on Jalen Tolbert? Jake Ferguson?
No, I'm very low on the Cowboys. I think that they're just extraordinarily fragile. So, but the thing is with me, like, I don't really draft from a projection standpoint. Like, I'm just drafting profiles I want to draft. So for me, it's not a standpoint of like, I don't think Cooks can pay off his ADP. It's just like, there are guys that I think have more sustained season long upside than a Brandon Cooks. And Brandon Cooks to me is just like kind of grabbing projected points. So it's not about like, it's not like I think there will be 160 players finish better than him. It's just like, do I want Brandon Cooks on my teams? It's like, no, I don't. So I just kind of find other guys. So to me, when you say like, how do the Cowboys fail or whatever, it's like, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't really know. It's more just like, he's not one of the guys that I think is going to be like a defining piece of the season. So I'd rather just bypass him and kind of let the chips fall where they may. Even though it's kind of the same idea as the Moss. Like I understand when you look at the team totals, you look at the numbers, like this has got to be T-Law, right?
Yeah, I took T-Law. So we're done.
It's honestly the same argument as the Moss thing. It's like I totally get the math argument. If I was building on my projections, I would have Cooks ranked infinitely higher than I project him. I'd have Moss ranked infinitely higher than I project him. But I just don't really like that profile of player. So I just would prefer to kind of bet on other guys is all. And there's only really 3 or 4 guys in each round I'm clicking. So it's just a matter of like Brandon Cooks isn't going to be one of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of fragility within that. There's definitely a lot of fragility within that offense, though. I'm with you. I mean, their run game could be atrocious. It all just brings me back to like if their run game sucks, they're just gonna throw it even more, man. Like they're, Jacob, you and I were all over this with Dallas last year.
Yeah,
everybody was saying, oh, Dallas is gonna be very, very run heavy. Pollard's gonna get 16, 18, 19 carries a game, and I was like, no, dude, look at their team. They're projected, they're gonna end up being one of the top 5, top 6 pass heavy teams, and they were the most pass heavy team. I just think the volume is so strong with Dallas, but I'm with you that they're a very fragile team in the way that they're built. Their offensive line is nowhere even close to as good as what they once were. No one's really talking about this either. Like, there's definitely some downside risk with Dallas for sure. I'm a little lower on Dak because of it.
They have like 2 good players on their offense. And like last year, both of them had the best seasons of their career, and they happened together, and they both stayed 100% healthy. There's some teams where I see like Miami is an example of a team where like Tyreek Hill's the best player on their offense. If he went down, the offense gets worse, but I still believe in the overall infrastructure and the schematic edge of that team that I think like they would still do stuff, and Waddle and Achane could get a larger share of the pie, and overall they would survive. And I think like the level of volume that Waddle and Achane would get would outweigh the overall hit to the offensive environment from losing Tyreek Hill. Dallas, I don't think has like a schematic edge over anyone. I don't think they have like an infrastructure to rely on. I think last year's success was just a matter of like Dak and CD being ballers for the most part and kind of just dragging everybody along. If they just don't play that well again, like if they just kind of play to the median of their career, or if God forbid one of them gets hurt, they're just a disaster. I think like if CD got hurt, I don't understand how this team moves the ball.
Yeah, they'd be
Zeke, baby.
3.5
career renaissance.
But that's the thing. Like if you get 2023 Dak and you get 2023 CD, I understand in that world how like now Zeke / Dowdle / both Cooks, Jake Ferguson just get like dragged along on volume to be, I think, like small win picks. But I also see a lot of fragility to the offense. And I don't see the path where any of them are big win picks. I guess that's the thing. I do take Zeke and Dowdle more than I take Ferguson and Cooks,
though. All right, we're coming up on.
Yes, thank you.
12.
Thank you.
We have
appreciate that. Still got to make it past Omega though. Okay, we're good. We're good, baby.
What do we think about Ty
I think the double stack is my personal priority, but I've been dictating a lot, so I'm happy if people
the Gabe Davis double stack. I mean,
you know what? We only have 5. I'm kind of with you. We got 3 good backs.
Okay.
I'm with you on that.
R.I.P. Ty Chandler.
Dude, I have taken like 0 Gabe unless it's like past ADP with Lawrence. So this kind of tracks here.
I've taken more Gabe than I planned on because I take so much Trevor, and then I get to this point and I'm like,
it's almost like you have guys.
Gabe.
Well, I mean,
we managed to shoehorn Trevor Lawrence and Tony Pollard into this show. What is this, 2 years ago?
This is by far the most Trevor Lawrence I've ever drafted. I mean, I've always been a fan of him from a real life perspective, but he's always been very priced up in fantasy to the point where I've kind of been like around the market.
I had 0 last year.
0. This is the first year where like I'm just like this is kind of fun for me because I've never gotten to like take my the way that people talk about him negatively online has never been reflected in his fantasy ADP before. So like people like the fantasy ADP has always been very bullish compared to like isolated haters on the internet. but the haters on the internet have now won. So his fantasy ADP is like now actually reflected by the haters. So this is very fun for me. I actually get to click like 20% Trevor Lawrence in a season at a price that I
You're
think
welcome.
is worthwhile. I'm very excited.
You're welcome.
What are we thinking here?
A lot of picks that I'd be fine with. Polk is probably my pick. Hawkinson, I think, would be a fine pick.
Hawkinson was what I was kind of thinking too.
And Jaylen Wright would be a fine pick, or Gibson.
I think Hawkinson's pretty lit.
Yeah.
Whatever you guys like, I'm good with any of these.
I'm gonna go Jaylen Wright for a little full-on Dolphins.
Works for me.
Onslaught. Yeah.
Graham's just trying to win brownie points with Jacob today. Like these are just all Jacob guys here. Jaylen Wrights.
Yeah.
Well, that's the one. You can't make it obvious.
That's true.
Wait, Jacob, you're super high on Jaylen Wright too?
Yeah, I really love this. I really love the fit.
Nice.
I was like,
I felt like I was
Jaylen
tripping
Wright
when I was like
prospect.
when I was going through my first rankings, dude. I felt like I was tripping because like I had Wright like in the 130s. I've pulled back a little bit, but I'm still pretty high on him.
Yeah, I had Wright as a guy who was kind of in the middle of the field on prior to the draft. Well, actually, sorry. When Best Ball Mania first came out, I was just pumping Jaylen Wright because he was free. He was like in the 200s, and I was like, "What are we doing?" Yeah. And then he got really steamed up to the point where it was like funny, where his ADP was like 60 spots higher than his original ADP, and I was like quoted in a newsletter with like, "Go draft Jaylen Wright now," and I was like, I don't really know if I believe that anymore. But then he gets the Dolphins landing spot, which maybe more so for Dynasty than Best Ball, but it was just like the nut skill set to scheme fit to me. So now I'm very, very in on Wright. I've been drafting him quite aggressively in Dynasty. I've been taking a lot of him in Best Ball.
Well, he's my most drafted player right now. So wow. I'm not pandering. I just wanted to know your thoughts about him because I'm with you. I just think there's massive contingent upside. Like I think Raheem Mostert's a fine pick at ADP, but I mean he's also 32 and he could fall off the age cliff this year. In which case, like a backfield of Achane and Wright sounds pretty perfect. And Wright is such a physical player. Like obviously he's got good speed, he's got good agility, but he was a really physical runner too. I think he can kind of get those inside tough carries. Vision isn't great with him. He's kind of got some Trey Benson in him. But
that's fine.
I don't really give a shit at 147 ADP.
That's all good.
Yeah.
As long as he can run straight ahead and really fast, I think they'll find a way to get him opportunities. I don't know. Sometimes I do fall into a trap of like, if I have a certain take about a team and their motivations and then something backs that up, then I get like maybe a little bit too into the player. But I remember like I was in discussions ahead of the draft with people being like, Miami needs to add a third like speed back, and they specifically need to add Jaylen Wright. Like, I remember getting into that discussion with people of like, Miami needs to draft this guy, and they're like, why? They have two guys. I was like, because like their offense just kind of works on like a fairly specific style that they just weren't getting from like Savon Ahmed and Jeff Wilson and guys last year. And you have like one guy who's constantly hurt and very small, and one guy who's constantly hurt and very old. So it's just like the odds that like you don't get some combination of like half the season in which Mostert or Achane is unavailable is just probably likely. And you need an answer for, kind of the 40% of the touches for those 9-10 games that I think is like actually meaningful to them. And Wright, I think will play a role within that. And Wright is one of those guys. Like I always think about, this kind of gets back to my Brandon Cooks take, but I think about like flip over the cards players where like, if it's week 16 and you check your advancing teams, can you envision yourself checking and being like, who's the player you have in your mind when you're like, who do I really hope I find on a team in week 16 when you check your advancing teams?
It's RB5 like, Jaylen Wright.
Jaylen Wright with like Achane or Mostert declared on injured reserve is like you just can easily see being like, oh man, I really hope I have a lot of Jaylen Wright on my teams.
Yeah, and there's just, at this point in the draft too, where he's going, he kind of got steamed, like you said, into the 130s. Now he's really starting to fall back into the 140s. Receiver really starts to fall off the board. We're really kind of just trying to project out RB2s. And we know
Johnston had already been drafted.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. Good Lord, man.
What are we doing?
Yeah, I got QJ like 35 spots below ADP.
I don't know that I don't think I have him ranked in my top 216.
Just full on fade here.
I would legitimately rather take DJ Chark.
Any of these receivers standing out here? Running backs
not
died.
Particularly. Like
Mimsy?
I guess one of the Denver
Mimsy?
guys wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
We'll take Mimsy.
Yeah. What's our end
Mimsy!
structure gearing towards? Are we looking at what 2592?
Right now we are probably 2592, maybe 2682.
Maybe 2682 would be
Little
okay.
Hunter Henry there, maybe? No.
I would be okay with that.
They're
only
pretty
receivers-
decent odds. I imagine he leads the team in touchdowns.
I would like, and I mean, I would say they'd make
He's
it
got
to
the
our
same
next
buy
set
as
of picks,
Mandrews,
but I don't know
though.
that they will anymore because they don't quite as reliably. But I would really love to have one of the two late Patriots receivers on the squad. I think those are two of the more mispriced players in terms of Baker and Douglas.
Yeah, I've got them both ahead of ADP. Significantly ahead of ADP on Demario Douglas. He didn't score any touchdowns last year, but dude was good, man. Really good.
Pop's their best receiver on their roster.
I have
Douglas.
Yeah. I have Douglas 163 and Baker 164 in my ranks, which is obviously like 3 rounds at ADP.
Goes to one of them here, but
to answer your question, I like Conklin more than Henry this year for sure.
Yeah, I've got Conklin.
Concur.
I'm a pro Conk Daddy guy. Yeah, he has been a dynasty savior for me for like 2 years.
This will be a fourth straight year. 7 targets.
I don't really care enough about like Conklin and Henry to have a take on who I like more. I take more Henry because I'm setting up Drake May stacks constantly, but I don't. It's not like that. I like him more.
Yeah, I have him back to back, but we got to go Conk here. I'm with you on Patriots too, man. Drake May will probably right now. I think Will Levis is my most drafted quarterback if I check exposures on all sites, but I would bet May is 2 or 3.
What was the reasoning for the Conklin pick that we just made?
I mean,
do we have any Bills or Jets?
I had suggested Henry.
Well,
and the option was Henry versus Conklin.
Henry and Mandrews have the same buy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I was the top. I was just the top of the queue there.
I see.
And I like Conklin. I exist here, Jacob. I have a voice.
Yeah, we were.
You cannot silence me.
What do we like about Tyler Conklin?
He's with horrific quarterback play. He's still been able to produce 4 or 5 weeks of the year at a pretty decent clip for a tight end this low in a draft. You give him Aaron Rodgers and an offense, this guy can score 8 touchdowns to me pretty easily because the other wide receivers on the Jets are trash cans. Like Corley sucks. Mike Williams sucks. Like everyone else is terrible. I don't see Brees and Garrett Wilson catching 30 touchdown passes. I think in the end zone, Conklin's that dude. So 8 touchdowns for him.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah, last 3 years, if you just look at bulk stats, Conklin's like top 12 in targets, receptions, yards, but like 30th in touchdowns. So if you think Rodgers is even like 60th, 60% of his old self, like Conklin's certainly fine.
I'm curious, like, so I think maybe my disconnect from you guys is less about like Conklin, and it's more just like, how do you guys put a lot of emphasis on the player takes for like a tight end 2? Like for me, a tight end 2 spot is just like reserved for like whatever dude is in my stacks. It's kind of just like how I usually play it. So like on this team, for instance, it would be like Chigakonkwo.
Yeah, you'd have to pay me money though to roster Chigakonkwo in any form. Really? Yeah. He's my he is a 0% for me. Yeah. He's a.
You want to hear my Chig?
I love him with Levis, but yeah, please.
I got 42% Chig right now.
Oh,
I can move that all over, but yeah, that is a function of these late round tight ends like Jonnu Smith, Chigakonkwo, Tyler Conklin, Mike Gesicki even, but just rounding out team stacks and correlations. Yeah,
that's where I'm at with it. Like that was why I was confused on the Conklin. Is just like, to me, it's such a like a tight end 2 is so much of just like a pin the tail on the touchdown position that I just very rarely take an uncorrelated option. But it's not like I think like a Conklin was a better pick than Conklin. Like I'm sure I have Conklin ahead of my rankings.
And I should say that 42% is also a function of I have many more 3 tight end teams than I have 2, even if I'm taking an elite guy, because of the fact. Yeah, because of I'm messing around with this theoretically this season in that if we're talking about like the Millie Maker, we'll just use that as an example in a DFS here. What do you need at a high rate to win the Millie Maker? And obviously, like we make week 17, we're talking about small field GPP here, but your chances of winning a small field GPP increase about 3.5x if you have a top 3 quarterback or we can go to top two quarterback and or a top 2 tight end. And because tight end scoring is so reliant on touchdowns and because that is so heavily correlated to quarterback play, it just makes sense to pair them as much as we freaking can and ride a little bit of the variance train at tight end, which is outside of the top 4, 5, 6, maybe. There's no volume to speak of, right? So just kind of playing that variance puzzle. And I've been messing around with that a lot this year, which has led me to a lot of 3 tight end builds, which like the theory behind it is like, maybe we can just ride variance and get to week 17 and then just work it out there. So
I want to keep this going, but I guess we got to make our pick first. I just love Baker because I love Baker. I love Boyd for the correlation. I love Tracy. I also really like Estime here.
Yeah, we can take Estime probably last round. He's completely fallen out with his knee scope issue. We'll take Tracy and receiver most likely.
Oh, you don't gotta talk me into Tyrone Tracy, baby.
Oh yeah. Love it for this team too.
Yeah, we got neighbors, so we get a little bit of a.
I am the Tyrone Tracy dude.
Slight correlation, yeah. I'll be honest, I don't feel awesome about these receivers after Kirk, but what do you 2592?
Feel awesome about these receivers.
Yeah, 2592, I think.
I'm feeling it. Yeah, I mean our running backs this is an incredible running back array. I mean, oh my god. We got I was gonna say we have 3 week 1 starters. We actually probably only have 2. Our round 2 pick is not a week 1 starter, but the other guys are.
Oh boy. Yeah, everybody's gonna freak out when Mostert gets 55% of the snaps in week 1 and Achan's at like 39.
But Achan wasn't even dressed week 1 last year. So for me, it's just same old story, different
hopefully
year.
Our round 2 pick.
Jeff Wilson will out touch Achan in the first week. People will lose their minds.
Even then, I remember running $100 ladders on Devon Achan's rushing totals last year and just hitting like 2,500 in a week because he'd go over 100 yards on his 2 touches. That was fun.
Oh, you know what we just set up, Graham? We just set up the round 17, round 18, Javon Baker, DJ Chark.
Let's go. Yeah, nice. Yeah,
let's go.
Can't get better than that.
No, you can't get any grosser than that. Wait, is Chark gone?
Former Jaguars legend.
Yeah, he went before.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 1 pick. Yeah, 1 pick before.
Is Elijah around as a potential bring back to all of our Miami stuff? I know
he's
a
good call. Player. Like that. Absolutely disgusting click, but
I mean, look at the names available for us right now. There are no non-disgusting picks.
Yeah.
I don't want Slayton either.
Yeah. No Slayton. Too many Giants. No Beckham.
I mean, for me, like 1 is too many Giants, but
I'm
if there's gonna be 1, it's neighbors
Giants this year.
The Giants.
I'm pretty out.
Yeah, I'm kind of out too.
Yeah. Yeah, solidly out.
I like Devin Singletary fine. I know you absolutely Jacob's about to lose his mind if I click Singletary.
He's gonna not make it to the end of the stream.
I'm like over market on Singletary, but you want to click on the full,
Singletary's gonna get another
round ahead of ADP.
Singletary's gonna get like another 240 boring ass touches and score 6 touchdowns and be fine. But
I'm not like anti Singletary. I'm anti like reaching around for Devin Singletary. That's
all right. Fair enough.
And now we have Tracy. I'm very in on Tracy. Let me look up. Look at this. I have 10% Devin Singletary. So I'm
okay.
I'm fine.
Okay. Fake hater. Doing it for clicks.
But I have a lot of the Giants. The only thing that annoys me about the Giants is that I can't take the stack because Jones is going to be benched because of his injury guarantees for the fantasy playoffs. So that's unfortunate. But,
yeah. I mean, I was thinking about this today. Like,
I never thought of that.
Carr versus Daniel Jones was like kind of a debate when I was going through projections and stuff. I bumped up Carr over Jones simply because of that. Like,
do you know who is tied for the most 300-yard passing games of all quarterbacks in 2023?
It was Derek Carr.
Yeah, it was, baby.
That's league winner, Derek Carr.
You got to draft him on DK though for the bonus.
Yeah, he does go a lot higher. He goes a little higher on DK, but yeah, the Olave teams, man. I've been like kind of taking some Derek Carr. It doesn't feel great, that's for sure.
I
keep putting Carr in the queue, and I'm like, maybe this will be the Derek Carr team, and then I'm like,
and then it's like, nope, yeah, same, nope.
There's so many late quarterbacks I like.
I have too many Carr, Olave, Juwan Johnson teams just for the day. If Derek Carr is like, this is the day, and this team happens to sneak in, and it happens to be 2 touchdown Juwan and a touchdown Olave day, and it wasn't Taysom Hill throwing any of them.
Yeah, and then it was 3 touchdown Taysom
so happy. But if it is a 3 touchdown Taysom day, I'm running into oncoming traffic.
I'm just pissed that underdog
it's just so hard to get to Carr.
Yeah,
like I think Drake May is such an insane value.
Yeah.
I think that Justin Fields is like a ridiculous value. Maybe people disagree with that. I know
going to fight you on that.
More projection focused people on this podcast, but I'm just saying, like, if Justin Fields is playing in week 15 through 17, he's projecting as a top 10 quarterback every one of those weeks.
But he won't be playing during week 15 and 7. If Pittsburgh is,
I think he's the odds-on favorite. I'm happy to make a side bet with anybody that wants to make a side bet with me on Fields versus Russ straight up starting week 15.
What do you want to do? What do you want to do? What charity? Do you want to do one for charity?
Let's go. Well, I mean, I think I'm a charity, but I guess we can do one for charity. Sure.
You're a charity.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, I'll do $100 to a charity of choice. Fields versus Russ, week 15. If it's neither, then the bet voids.
All right.
Do we get an injury stipulation, like non-injury related to Russ week 15 starting?
No, because that's not how we're drafting in best ball, right? Like part
okay.
of the
I'll take you. $100. Wilson versus Fields starting week 15.
Book it.
All right. We're booked.
All right.
We're booked.
All right.
We'll revisit this on Dynasty Points.
We will. So I think Fields is an amazing collect. I agree with you everything we said about Levis. I'm very in on Levis. I'm very
Speaking of which, Deshaun Watson and Levis are going to go undrafted here. This is an absolutely wild.
Wait, why don't we just take Deshaun Watson? We already have all the Dolphins. Oh, or we could take Levis. We have Titans. Like, let's just take one of them.
I'm down.
I'm not against that, to be honest.
Yeah, let's take Levis.
Yeah.
Yeah, damn. Now I'm pissed. I took Conklin. We should have saved that for Chiggy. Oh well. Unbelievable value. That's crazy.
We're gonna have Levis, Chuck, and Tony Pollard.
Does somebody have one quarterback?
That's wild.
I'm trying to figure this out.
They're Mayo haters. That's all it is. They're look, not a high T draft room. That's what this was. This is a low T.
Right, Connor 100.
Here, I'll find it.
Oh, this reminds me. What I was going to ask you had all those awesome points about the 3 tight end teams. Do you take three teams, or does this mean you're just taking only 2 quarterback teams? If you're taking
almost exclusively 2 quarterback teams, and that has meant that my exposure to the top 6 has been much higher.
So I think that's a totally reasonable way to play it. My only pushback to people is I think that the 3-3 builds should be a last resort, just in the sense that, like, barring a tight end in your flex, which is not really something you should be banking on most of the time, then you're basically capping yourself at 12 roster spots for 7, which, given the rate of injuries, the fact that we're clicking like borderline NFL players the last 2 rounds is just, I think, like, really putting a lot of pressure on yourself. The reason why I generally avoid the 3 tight end teams is just like last year I did it a lot. And that was because I felt like we had, and it sounds like hindsight now, and it will be to some degree to some of these players that I wasn't clicking a lot of. Some of them I was we had this really, really hyped up rookie draft class. And Kincaid went early, but Laporta didn't, and Musgrave didn't, and Mayer didn't, to varying degrees of success. We had other kind of younger, interesting bets, like a Dulcich obviously didn't work out. McBride obviously really worked out. We had this pool of kind of like upside guys who were not just, weekly upside guys, but like sustained upside guys. This year, late round tight end pool is not that, right? Like it's guys that we were talking about: Hunter Henry, Tyler Conklin, Juwan Johnson, Cade Otton. It's like more guys that it's like, okay, like I know what I'm getting here. I'm getting a guy who's going to run 75% of the routes, and he's going to be Tyler Conklin, and he's going to, like, some weeks it's going to be 3 for 30 and no touchdown. And then some weeks it's going to be 5 for 50 with a touchdown. And that's kind of like what you're buying on that. Right. And I think there's like totally a place for that on teams. It's just my struggle is when I see people do the 3 late tight ends, and it's a tight end room of Cade Otton, Juwan Johnson, Tyler Conklin.
Yeah, you got all the same
It's like
guy.
a reasonable team. Like you can certainly like have a high scoring team that way. I think actually it projects quite favorably from a median perspective. My issue is you had 18 chances to pick a season defining player when you started your draft. And now you have 15 because 3 of your picks are Juwan Johnson, Cade Otton, and Tyler Conklin. And 100%. I just think that really pressurizes the rest of your draft. So that's sort of my only pushback that why I generally do more of the elite tight end drafting is like this year, we're getting priced down Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, which is really appealing to me. And then the only guy between that and the end where I'm like, I can paint myself a picture of a sustained league winner is Bowers, who I take a ton of, but he's not exactly a late round tight end. He's like kind of a mid round tight end. And after that, it's like, I don't know, like Ben Sinnott goes like pick like 160, which is like, okay, like I click him sometimes, but I mean, we didn't even take, like, Michael Mayer would get undrafted in like 20% of the drafts. And like, I know it didn't really work out, but he was just objectively a much better prospect than like Ben Sinnott. Like Luke Musgrave until the very end of the season was a last round kind of guy. Like that to me is like a more comparable prospect bet to what like Ben Sinnott is this year. And he was borderline free. I actually really like Musgrave a lot this year. But yeah, I don't know. That's where I'm at with it. I struggle to allocate that much. Like if I want Tyler Conklin to be used how he's used in this draft, which is if Mark Andrews sprains an ankle at some point, when he has a couple of bad weeks, we just got a guy who's going to be on the field, who's going to run routes, who's going to fill in the gaps and provide that stability. But we understand, like, for our team to win, Mark Andrews is ultimately the guy that we're relying on to get us over the hump, and Conklin is a backup goaltender in that respect. And I think that's like the way I want to use my Tyler Conklin bullets.
Yeah, 100%. And to close that loop, 3-3 is one of the lowest EV for advancement rate and for getting a team to the finals. So like that is completely off the table. So because of the fact that like I'm buying a little bit heavier into the 3 tight end builds, that has kind of forced my hand to get, some higher level quarterback play because I kind of know that I'm trying to buy the variance fill in, we'll say. And that has not meant that I've been underweight the elite tight ends. It's just for the case, like, the variance cases that we can't control now when we're sitting here. It's like, what if Mark Andrews is the guy that gets us there and he sits out for some reason? He pulls gets a dinged up knee in week 15. Now we have the fill in and we have 2 shots at the fill in instead of just a single bullet. Similar case, like George Kittle is so valuable in a best ball setting because he has such a wide range of outcomes. But from the same point, he is most useful through that theoretical reasoning on 3 tight end builds because the weeks where he's putting up the 5 ball, you have 2 shots on goal kind of to back that up.
I'm really interested in the Kittle I think he's a really unique one to discuss about that because I think there's like a totally reasonable case for 3 tight end Kittle teams in it's what you just said. And I guess the appeal is you're saying, well, I'm effectively getting a discount on him relative to his weekly ceiling.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm going to spend some of that discount back by allocating extra capital. I think that's fine. My only counterpoint to that is tight ends just don't score that many points, period.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that you can just survive the Kittle dud weeks in the regular season by hoping you just draft a better team that doesn't really rely on tight end points. And then once you get to the playoffs, like, if Kittle's airballing repeatedly in the playoffs, then you just lose. So the hope to me, it's more like I just would rather try and rely on other guys to kind of like the rest of my team to drag my Kittle to the playoffs. And then once I've taken Kittle, I've just, at the point that I put Kittle on my team, I'm kind of assuming that he's going to have at least two good games in the finals. I'm assuming he's going to have one nuclear game in the 3 playoff weeks. And I'm hoping that he at least has one other good game. So I don't know. I'm tempted by it. I do get it with Kittle. Like it would have to be 2 very late tight ends though. Like it would be like Kittle and then like my round 17 and round 18 pick. I think it's better to do, if you're going to do it, I would say do it now, because the round 17 and 18 running back and wide receiver picks will be way better when we have more information than they are right now, right? Like there's so many backfields that currently it's like we're not drafting a Colts RB2 today, right? We're not drafting an Eagles RB2 today. There's so many backfields like that. We just don't have the requisite information. Come August, if it's, the beat reports are like,
Will Shipley's looking great,
Will Shipley looks awesome. He's clearly the number 2 back. Then we're drafting Will Shipley in every single draft, and then that's another player that's like more exciting to draft than a tight end. Whereas now, a tight end is kind of a safe harbor where it's like, oh great, like all these running backs and wide receivers I'm looking at are going to score 0, but at least I can draft Johnny Smith, who will be on a football field.
Yeah. My big pushback, Jacob, is really yours. Like you look at flex scoring, you've been flex scoring with backs, receivers, and tight ends, and you just look at ceiling games. Like tight ends make up like 5 to 7% of all ceiling games. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, if you're taking Kittle, you're taking Ingram, you're taking Pitts in the 6th round, like you want to draft as if you're right. And if you're right, those guys are just, playing every single week in your lineup, and you're in theory only going to need one to back them up, because that 2nd or 3rd tight end is just like very, very rarely going to be affecting your flex spot.
And that's something that is like is fluid via the dynamic draft strategy, because we know that information is changing, variance is changing. We're going to have a lot more information with each passing week. Really, we're kind of in the dead zone now, where the previous 2 weeks and the next 2 weeks we don't get a ton of additional information. But like the information, like when we were drafting these, like the sickos we are drafting these contests before the schedule was even released, it's like, the variance is at its peak, and then we get the schedule release, and then we get OTAs, and then the next big one is camp. So between now and when that happens is when to hammer like these theoretical micro edges. And then once ADP starts like evening out and we get it to, it's never going to be perfect, right? But it's going to approach some level of efficiency at some point. Once we get to that point is where we can start doing these and be a little bit more aligned to like optimal theory, right? Right now, it's like we can take these exploits and we can do things the field isn't doing. And that's kind of what my strategy this year has been.
Well, just to kind of put a button on this, like the big factor in your favor, Hilo, of doing the more 3 tight end builds right now is look at our draft. There's 7 running backs taken in the last 2 rounds. All of them I feel are thin, like Braylon Allen, Elijah Mitchell, Keaton Mitchell, CH, Evan Hull, Dylan Laube. Like all those dudes could be stone zeros. Like they could all be surpassed by other players. And it's like right now we genuinely have no idea. And I was talking about this in the stream a couple weeks ago with you, Mark. It's like there's like 10, 12 teams where we have no idea who the RB2 is. Yeah. So just lean into that now. Take your receivers, take your tight ends in these rounds, and then save those running back late round bullets for when we have more information.
There's only one good round 18 running back pick right now, and it's the one backfield that is an elite NFL offense with a locked-in, uncontested RB2, and we can just take CH in every single draft.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yep, 100%. With you. And I've been doing that a lot because I have a lot of Patrick Mahomes because of this whole strategy. And like you bypass Jekko earlier, you got Patrick Mahomes plus a pass catcher and then CEH. That's like nobody's going to have that roster construction, at least at that ADP.
I just do my Justin Fields round 17, CEH round 18 correlation every team.
There you go.
Stack it on.
CEH.
So I want to explore this Fields
touchdowns.
thing. Like, so are you guys actually not taking free Justin Fields? Because I think this is like one of the most generationally mispriced players in the history of underdog fantasy.
I'm taking him because the range of outcomes discussion. Like, obviously, this is a weekly game. We're looking for a weekly range of outcomes, right? And we're trying to build all of that into a roster that also has median for the season, right? And range of outcomes, all that discussion. But I'm clicking him because his weekly range of outcomes is okay. I'm doing it in very different ways than the field. I'm kind of drafting him as if he is going to play half the season, or the Steelers are going to get eliminated in week 14 and he's playing the rest of the way, or there's an injury. And if that's the case, he's most beneficial to be your quarterback 2 on a roster. And he's most beneficial to be paired with somebody that gets you to that point. So where I'm taking him is like, I have an elite quarterback and then him, and that's it. And that's all I got at the quarterback position, because if he does pan out like we want him to, he's almost a burned roster spot if you have him as your quarterback 3.
Yep.
So I haven't been doing that. I totally get that take. I think part of it is just that I am mostly drafting 3 quarterback teams this year, because it's kind of this. It's the same thing that you said. It's just the opposite, but it's the same. If that makes sense.
I mean, it's like the ones
to me the edge. To me, like, I look at it, I'm like, what do I think is the number one thing I need to be doing based on the current draft economy? And for me, it's drafting the elite tight ends. I think those are the most mispriced players. And it's because I hate the late tight ends this year.
But it's so deep this year.
Yeah. Like, I don't like the upside of the late tight ends. I don't mind the Johnson, Auden, Henry, like all those guys, Conklin as like T2s, but I don't want to bet on them as like leaders.
Guys that you're actually having to put in your lineup every week. Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to be like so overweight the aggregate of Andrews, McBride, Pitts, Kittle, Kelsey, not really Laporta. I mean, that price is something. But if he comes down, which I think he will, because like he's like a sexy young player who even all of the analysts who usually love sexy young players are saying is overpriced. So I just can't imagine that his 80 people actually hold there. I think it'll come down into the early 4th, and then I'll still think he's a little overpriced, but I'll click him at that point. I'll be so overweight on the elite tight ends that it's pushing me off of the elite quarterbacks, not because I don't think the elite quarterbacks are good prices. Like, it's more just I want to be 4 wide receivers minimum through 7. I'm almost always taking 1 tight end through 7.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now there's only 2 spots left. I'm taking some running backs, so it's a little tough. It's like the quarterback I probably am prioritizing the most is Richardson, who's like the Kittle of tight ends. I don't even mind taking 3 quarterbacks with Richardson because of the injury fragility. I don't take as much as the other guys. I will sometimes. And then I really love Lawrence at price. I love Herbert at cost. I don't know that I love or hate Tua at cost, but I love Waddle so much that I end up taking Tua a lot. And then I love the late guys so much. Like, I think Watson is a great value. I think Levis is a great value. I mentioned May, McCarthy. I don't even mind Bo Nix. And then Fields is just, to me, a great fit on those teams where it's like, if I have Lawrence and I have May or Lawrence and Love, even, it's like, if I feel like I have a good team around them, like, why don't I just stick Fields on this team? And it's just kind of this like secret weapon that I can pull out at the end of the season in the playoffs, which is the thing. And like, I get, like, people are saying Fields isn't good. Like, if anyone has like followed my content at all in the last 3 years, they know that I think Fields sucks. Like, I assure you that I think Fields sucks. I think Russ, like, also massively sucks. And I just don't think that, like, if Fields was going to be the week 1 starter, I would bet on Russ starting week 15. Because Russ is going to be the week 1 starter, I would bet on Fields starting week 15. I just think both these quarterbacks are so bad that they're not going to be able to start for 17 weeks without getting benched.
Yeah.
And Fields is the one who gets to come in second. And he's the one who who we care about from a fantasy perspective, because he's the one who projects for a lot of fantasy points despite sucking.
It doesn't matter that Fields sucks. We want him running in circles and running around fast and then running into the end zone fast. I don't really care that he sucks. He can't throw over the middle.
And
I don't care.
That's fine. That gives him the ball again to get more.
It's the old Jameis theory. It's the old Jameis theory, man. Just give the ball back.
No.
Yeah, great.
As a fan,
give it back.
Like, I legitimately think Fields is a better quarterback than Russ, which is only a take about Russ. It's not a take about Fields. Like,
at this point in their careers, it's
unplayable.
At this point in their career, Fields gives you way more upside in terms of what you can do with him in the run game. But I just don't know if the Steelers are sharp enough to really figure that out. I also believe Mike Tomlin. I think he brought in Russ to be the guy. And if the Steelers are winning, he does not want anybody to turn the ball over, and that is not Justin Fields. So that's unfortunate.
Right. That's the only downside too. Is also that dude doesn't have losing. I don't think he does.
I don't think he wants to, but like, I don't know. Like, do we really think like the last 2 years we've seen of Russ and everything we've seen of Arthur Smith and the fact that they have George Pickens and nothing, like, is this going to be a successful offense?
I don't think they need it to be overly successful for that team, though, which is the issue. Is that team is always somehow relevant towards the end of the year with guys like Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky throwing the football, that I think they just literally need a guy like mentioned.
They have made quarterback changes each of the last 2 years. Like their week 1 starter was Trubisky 2 years ago, and then they played Pickett. Their week 1 starter was Pickett last year, and then they ended up playing Trubisky, and then they ended up playing Rudolph. Like, it's not like they change quarterbacks. Like, that's a thing that they have done.
But one thing NFL teams like to do is bring in like the fake reassurance, and that's Russ. He's a winner. He's a veteran. He can manage the offense. Like, he doesn't make the boneheaded play. Like, I can 100% see the Steelers being somewhere around 500, somewhere in a push for the AFC North, because that division is annoying, and him not wanting to go to a wild card to get him there. I can just see Tomlin being that safe, for better or worse, which is
I can see it.
Terrifying for me.
The good news is with both these guys, if you like Fields, if you like Russ, like, these backs that we're taking here, they're most likely zeros. So it's not like you're giving up a shit ton of opportunity cost.
Yeah.
I mean,
especially
I don't think Russ is clickable, because even if you're on the opposite side from this from me, and you think Russ is a heavy favorite to be starting in the playoff weeks, like, to me, he's like the Tannehill pick from last year, where it's like, what do you win when you're right about Russell Wilson starting at the end of the playoffs? It's like, congrats, you have the 23rd highest projected quarterback in the playoffs. It's like, why don't you just draft a guy who doesn't have as much bench risk, and it'll be basically the same thing. That with Fields, it's like, if you get to week 15 and Fields is starting, you're pumped, because his weekly ceiling is top 5 among everybody from a fantasy perspective. No matter how much we all think he sucks, if he starts from week 15 through week 17, and I get it's a big if, your odds of getting a 25 plus point week, one or more of those 3 weeks, are very good.
Yeah,
I can vibe with that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can too. I just keep coming back to, man, like Thomas was saying, they're going to have 7-8 wins. Their defense is going to be good. Like, if TJ Watt stays healthy all year, like, their defense is going to be really good. They're going to stay in games, and it'll be Russ. And it's going to be
another thing
gross,
too.
But
If you believe in it, MTM Revolta said Russ always tries to commandeer the locker room, and that won't last a month in Pittsburgh. He's so corny that he might play himself out of playing.
Players love Fields, man. Players love Justin.
They do.
It's true. Yeah. And Russ is just so corny, bro. Like, he's the corniest dude ever.
Also, 30% of NFL starting quarterbacks get hurt every year. Like, it's possible it's taken out of their hands, right?
Well, I'm with you. That's why I've been doing more 3 quarterback builds. Last season was the first time in the last 3 years where 3 QB teams just straight up had a higher advance rate over expectation than 2 quarterback teams. And obviously there was just a catastrophic injury storm that hit the position. But I just think this ADP setup really supports 3 QB builds, like you're outlining, with pretty much all the late round guys. And then you mix in the fact that I can draft Mark Andrews at 52 overall. It's just kind of become a slam dunk for me too. And I am very, very much in the mindset that I want to have two. Like ideally, I want to have 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends on every team, and just max out my variance at running back and receiver, and try to fill those flex spots every week, and also account for injuries. But this season, I've been taking way, way more 3 quarterback teams with 2 tight ends.
I'll probably be more like, I've always been a 2-2 guy as well.
Yeah.
I'll probably do more, Hilo was talking earlier in the show about like, what will you change in August? I would bet that I do a lot more 2-2 teams in August. But it's going to be 3-2 for me mostly now, because again, like the quarterbacks, similar to what we were saying with the tight ends, are more appealing picks to me in round 17 and 18 than who's the running back 2 of X team or Zay Jones. It's just like, the wide receivers you can click there are just not fun. The running backs that you can click there can be fun. They also could be on the practice squad. And
well, you're touching on the flip side of the point here. I don't see a single receiver that goes past, like, once you get past Javon Baker at 180, I don't know if any of these guys like really jump up in ADP. Like who is really blowing past ADP?
Traylon Burks when he moves to tight end.
Brett would love that.
And this is the thing too. Like if I think about all the quarterbacks that I like, a lot of them are just better picks in 3 quarterback, or maybe we can debate it. Like Kyle, I thought he made a good case for Fields in 2 quarterback builds. I would say especially with Allen and Mahomes. I'm trying to remember the ones off the top of my head, but anyone who has a late bye week is what I'm getting at.
Ooh, that's a good call.
Because you obviously want to buy as much time for Fields to actually get
Lamar.
That job. Awesome.
Lamar would be a good one.
Lamar week 14, yeah. But like a lot of the quarterbacks that I like are quarterbacks with like very legitimate playing time concerns, right? It's like I love Drake May. He's not playing week 1. I think it would be like I don't know. He's like probably like plus 800 to play week 1. I would wager. Yeah. I don't know. Like let's say he's closer to even money by like week 4 to 6, and then
I was about to say he's minus 125 for week 4 though.
Right, and then he's like probably like when he's like an overwhelming favorite by like week 8, something like that. So McCarthy, same difference. I think there's like injury / disinterest in playing football concerns with Deshaun Watson that we can like factor in and say like maybe he's not at the top of your list for quarterbacks most likely to play 17. Levis is probably a guy that would be more likely to play 17 out of this group of guys that I like clicking, but a lot of them are guys with playing time risk. Fields obviously has not a playing time risk, a certainty of not playing 17 games. So that's part of the reason too, is like I try to take like one of that kind of love through Lawrence to a Herbert group, and then kind of 2 of these late guys is generally how I build up.
Well, it's fun too because you can like mix and match. Like I'm not obsessed with Baker. I like Chris Godwin quite a bit, but I've been taking a lot of Baker just because I can project 17 games out of him, and he goes at 160, and then I mix him in with Drake May or JJ McCarthy. It's just as a part of these 3 quarterback builds, give me some upside. And
rooms are getting so much sharper.
Yeah,
like I don't really take Mike Evans, but if you just take Evans and Godwin. In a lot of these sharp rooms, Baker's just yours now.
Yeah. I've done the same.
No one
is
interested.
Yeah.
Like no one's interested in taking an unstacked Baker Mayfield. So if you have both Evans and Godwin, or if you have one of them and you look at the team that has the other one and they don't need a quarterback, it could be Baker's ADP and you just go like, not yet. And then it like comes to you again, like the next round, you're like, not yet. Like you can just get like 30 picks after ADP Baker. So I get that a lot with Rodgers, where I'll take Garrett Wilson.
Yep.
And then I just don't take Rodgers for a while. And I'm just like, let's see how far I can push it. And sometimes it's like really far.
Yeah. Into the 170s, really dude.
Because no one else is interested. Yeah.
It's basically like in every draft, one of Baker, Rodgers, or Stafford is going to fall. And it's just like these are the stiff quarterbacks that go in the 160s that can throw 28, 30 touchdowns. But, you really are looking for a means to an end type thing. Gentlemen, this has been an awesome post-draft discussion. Really great stuff. Jacob, thank you so much for coming on this week. What you got going on, man? I know you've been super busy. You said you're grinding through a few things with work. You got anything fun coming up you want to promote?
I do. This will be a fun weekend. I had a extremely busy real life work week last week, so it's been a little bit of a pause on thinking. But I have best ball ranks up there that I've referenced. I have a piece on the best ball economy there that's a little old now, but I will have a new piece coming out this weekend, and it's going to be my essentially my takedown of the "this could be the guy you need" thesis of best ball. So I've been hearing a lot of, well, he could be the guy you need, or spike week upside. And I've been looking into the guys that produce the end of season spike weeks and how often those are either also players that are just sustained season long winners or contingency bets, and making a case for trying to identify more sustained season long upside profiles in best ball. So I'll have something up on that probably by the end of this weekend or very early next week. And then Dynasty Points with Tom every week. And if you want to just like mute me for the next 2 weeks, 80% of my tweets will be about the Boston Celtics as I'm about to go watch the first round of the NBA Finals. I assure you that as soon as those finals end, between 4 to 7 games, I will be tweeting about only football and occasionally the Supreme Court until week 1.
There you go. There you go. Well, Celtics got Porzingis back tonight. They got, but
he's not starting. He's coming off the bench.
Apparently. Yeah. Well, he's gonna get minutes though, man. They got full rotation back. I know Luka's unguardable right now, but I'm on Celtics.
Mavs and
that's what to hear.
Hilo, you're potting like almost every day over at OWS for the BB Plus package that y'all have over there. You got any fun, cool studies coming out as we're grinding through these summer months coming up here?
Yeah, doing a re-emphasis on a touchdown article that I did for 33rd before last offseason. Obviously no longer with them, but it's still up over there, and I'm gonna be remastering that. So touchdowns matter, and it feels like over the last 2 years we've forgotten that as an industry.
Touchdowns.
Yeah, so touchdowns matter. Good deal. So going through that, and then just cranking out content, man.
Nice, man. Yeah, we we're just having a 20-minute post-draft discussion about tight ends, and that's like the only thing that matters in tight end is touchdowns. We're sitting here talking about what George Kittle's spike week potential is. Will Tyler Conklin actually score a touchdown this year? It's like, no, just
tight ends are people too.
Yeah,
they deserve time.
Yeah. So actually, the correlative function between touchdowns and fantasy production is the lowest at tight end. That threw me for a loop.
Is that true?
It's quarterbacks,
running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends.
It's just the variance of the position, though. They live and die by touchdowns.
Wow, I'm really surprised that it's the lowest at tight end. I mean, quarterback makes sense, but running back makes sense, I guess. If you had asked me, is the correlation higher between fantasy points and touchdowns at wide receiver or tight end? I guess.
It's just the variance.
I guess wide receivers have more. Yeah. Well, the thing that would make sense is I guess wide receivers are more likely to have a long touchdown.
Yep.
Than a tight end, obviously. So I guess you're then probably like adding more fantasy points contingent on scoring a touchdown. The wide receiver position that might be kind of a rationale for it.
It's kind of like the running back theory. It's like we want to draft running backs from teams that have like a relatively decent chance to give their running backs like volume inside the 10. The same thing could be said for tight ends.
Here's we'll end it with this. This is an eye-opening data point. The R-squared value between touchdowns and fantasy production at quarterback last year was 0.978, which is bonkers absurd, unheard of.
Yeah.
Unheard of. So that's draft your quarterbacks that on offenses you expect to be scoring.
There you go. We'll leave it on that note. Gentlemen, great stuff tonight. This team is winning $1 million. And if we don't win $1 million, I hope you guys do. We'll see you guys at the top of the leaderboards, and we'll see you next Thursday for another best ball breakdown.
What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.